It is that time of the year once again, folks. So, balance patch season is upon us once more. And as you can see here, Capcom have confirmed that a balance patch is going to be dropping alongside Alex on March 17th, which probably explains why there's such a big gap between Alex's gameplay trailer and his release. This is also kind of good news because the balance patch is dropping right after Capcom Cup, which means that we get much more of a chance to adjust to the changes before the new season starts. Unlike last year, where they dropped the balance patch 2 months after the season had already started, which was insane. We know a couple of small details about this upcoming balance patch so far. So, number one, as it says here, all characters will be getting changed. And number two, it seems the balance patch is going to be fairly large. Capcom mentioned in a recent interview with Daigo at the Streamer Awards that the mini patch that recently tweaked Sagat, Mai, and Elena was actually just changes that spilled over from a much larger balance patch, which is presumably this one. Anyway, so because it's balance patch season once again, today I am going to make my predictions for which characters are likely to get buffed and which characters are likely to get nerfed. Just to be clear, this is not what I personally would do. This is me trying to get into the Capcom mindset. Also, worth mentioning that this is not a tier list. There are some strong characters that I doubt will actually get nerfed, and there are some weak characters that I doubt will actually get buffed. Anyway, before we get started, I'd really appreciate if you guys could subscribe. If I catch anyone watching this video while not being subscribed, I will cast a spell that gives you the sensation of stepping on a droplet of water while walking around your house in socks. You have been warned. I just thought about this. I'm going to add 2 different versions of Unchanged here. Because I feel like whenever we talk about this stuff, we have to talk about how sometimes staying the same can be a buff, and sometimes staying the same can be a nerf, and it depends on where your character was in the first place, so. I'm gonna also say up front that I'm going off the assumption that the system mechanics are not massively changing because they don't usually change much about system mechanics update to update, but if the system mechanics do get changed, then all of this gets thrown out the window. So I'm assuming that the system mechanics stay mostly intact. Anyway, so starting with Ryu always gets buffed is the running joke. I don't think Ryu is gonna get buffed now. I think he has finally maybe overstepped his boundaries a little bit. That being said though, I've seen some people saying this character is going to get killed. Right now, I don't get the feeling that Japan currently rates Ryu as high as the rest of the world. You're going to hear me say this a lot going forward, but I feel like Japan's collective opinion does matter more, perhaps, than everyone else's. So I think Japan generally thinks Ryu is strong, but they don't tend to put him in like top 4. So I think Ryu is going to get small nerfs. I'm expecting him to get small nerfs. Luke. I think Luke is going to get buffed. 2 reasons for that. Luke is quite underrepresented right now. There's very few players using Luke competitively now. It's basically just like Noah. I can't even think of anyone else. Is there someone I'm forgetting besides Noah that uses this character? Chris Wong sometimes. So yeah, Luke's competitive appearances have dried up a lot. And I also think that he has face on the cover art privilege, which means I don't think, generally speaking, Capcom wants the main character, the guy who is selling copies of the game, his big mug plastered all over the marketing materials. I don't think they want this character to be bad. So I do think that Luke is probably going to get some love in this update because he has fallen off quite considerably. Anyway, Chun-Li. I think Chun's going to get small buffs. I don't think she's going to get quite as much love as Luke. There's quite a lot of strong Chun-Li representation in Japan right now. Goichi is always putting in work. I'm not expecting her to get quite as much as Luke, but I think she'll get some small buffs here and there. Jamie. This is the first tricky one. I'm trying to figure out what Capcom wants to do with Jamie. I've got to try and zero in on the Capcom wavelength. Historically, they've never really given him that much love. I think I'm going to put Jamie in unchanged, not that strong currently. And I should clarify that when I say unchanged, I don't mean that he's literally not going to get any changes. What I mean is that he'll probably get some changes, but I don't think they're going to have much of an effect. So even though on paper I expect him to probably get buffed, I don't think those buffs are going to have much of an effect. Potential man? Yeah, kind of. I have the feeling that there is going to be one update that just randomly gigabuffs Jamie to the moon, but I don't think we're there yet. Okay, Guile. I'm going with unchanged, already strong on Guile. Guile's already good, but I think Capcom are very hesitant to allow this character to get much, because I think ultimately, and maybe this is a conspiracy theory on my part, but I feel like Capcom fundamentally does not want Guile to be that represented on like tournament streams and stuff, because beginners will watch Guile throw 86 Sonic Booms in a row and be like, wow, this game sucks, everyone just spams. So he's gonna remain a specialist character, I would imagine. I don't think the Guile is gonna change much. This is another slight question mark for me. What do we think is gonna happen to Kimberly? I actually think, yeah, I'm actually starting to lean towards small nerfs. Even though I don't think Kimberly is especially strong, I think one of the most complained about things I've seen this season is stand heavy punch and stand medium punch run being a frame trap. So I'm actually expecting some of her more like autopilot strings to get nerfed. So maybe she gets nerfed, but I'm not that confident about this one. But I get the feeling that even though Kimberly's not that represented, I think she might get some small nerfs. Jury, this is the easiest one I've done so far. Unchanged, already strong. Jury never changes, really. The collective effect of Jury's changes has never really been that big of a deal. She's almost exactly the same character she was on day one in terms of like overall game plan and performance. Her strengths are the same, her weaknesses are the same. They've just tweaked the numbers a little bit here and there. I expect that to continue. I think you could make a case that like Jury is the launch character who is the most similar to how she was on day one. Dhalsim. I think Dhalsim is going to get small buffs. He usually does. And they genuinely add up after a while. Like, Dhalsim's been slowly creeping his way up, but just not quite fast enough. I'm expecting him to get a few improvements. Again, similar to Guile, I don't think zoners are given much room to improve. I think Capcom is very concerned about a meta where the zoners come out on top, so they're probably going to be quite conservative with the changes. E-Honda. I've been so wrong about this in the past. I'm going to make the gamble here and say that Honda's actually going to get, like, noticeable buffs, even though I'm not convinced. I've been wrong about this every single update. I think every time we do one of these predictions, I always say this is going to be the year they buff Honda, and they don't. Isn't Honda a noob stomper? That is true, actually. That is actually a really good point, okay? One thing I hadn't considered is that competitively, Honda is not that strong, but Honda is an absolute fucking demon at, like, beginner level play. So maybe that influences, like, the possibility of him improving. That's actually a good point. You've changed my mind with that one. I'm downgrading him to small buffs just because I feel like, yeah, the impact this character could have on, like, beginner level gameplay, just spamming headbutt and butt slam, probably does influence the balance decisions behind him. Ken... As much as I don't want to say this, I'm pretty confident Ken is going to get small buffs. Ken players had to suffer the indignity, the horror, the nightmare of being a mid-tier character for one whole year, and there's no way that can continue. That's a lifestyle that Ken players can't comprehend. Literally unplayable, brackets mid-tier. So I don't think that he's going to get a huge amount of buffs, but I do think he's probably going to get a few improvements. Maybe some small damage increases here and there, that kind of thing. Okay, Blanca. First entrant in will get nerfed. I think Blanca is going to get shot. Japan seems to hate this character right now, which is a big factor. He's not the most hated character in Japan. We'll get there. You guys know where that one's going. But he is definitely consistently appearing in the S tier top 4s in that region. So I think Blanca is likely to get shot. DJ. I'm thinking DJ is going to be added to Unchanged Already Strong. I would expect DJ to probably stay roughly the same. They might buff one or two things in an extremely minor way. They do buff him every season, but generally the buffs don't change much. Like, they made it so that you can... What was it? The last change was, like, changes to how much drive gauge damage EX Sway does on block, but, like, did that fundamentally change anything about DJ's matchups or anything, realistically? So again, when I say unchanged, I don't literally mean no changes. I mean, like, unchanged in the sense of, like, did it actually make the character overall noticeably stronger? Which I don't think so, but you could argue it, I guess. Manon. This is always a fun one for me. This is a fun one. So, Capcom historically has not been kind to Manon in any balance patch, even though she's not really that strong. The other thing to consider is that recently Akutagawa has been on a hot streak. He won some Red Bull event a few weeks ago. Akutagawa has been destroying a lot of people with this character, and that does influence opinion. Noticeably, Nemo's recent tier list had Manon above the likes of like Bison and stuff. So I think one person is responsible for this. She's going in small nerfs. I think the Manon community, you guys need to have a conversation with Akutagawa. I think you guys need to like kidnap that guy in order to enforce the agenda. Because that guy is single-handedly standing in the way of this character getting any love from Capcom, I think. I don't think she's gonna get shot, but I think she's likely to get nerfed a little bit, even though I don't think she deserves it at all. That's my guess. I hope I'm wrong, but I have a feeling this is coming. Marisa. I think she might get some love. I think it might be Marissa's turn for some love. I think she's gonna get buffed, and I do think the buffs are probably gonna actually be pretty good. Honestly, this one, I can't even really explain why I feel like this. It's just a feeling that I have in the air, you know? It's just a vibe, this one. Okay, JP. The character that some asshole kept ranting about recently. I'm thinking small nerfs. I do think JP is going to get nerfed. I don't think the effect of the nerfs is going to be huge. I don't think they're going to, like, shoot him or anything. He's got a lot of tools that are just fundamentally strong that you can't really nerf unless you, like, remove them entirely. So I think he's a difficult character to actually make bad. But I am expecting him to get nerfed a little bit. Especially because Takedo is currently playing this character, and Takedo has been finding some absolutely grimy setups with JP. There's a new setup going around where he can do instant overhead jump light kick versus crouch medium kick from a level 2 activation, which is basically like unreactable 50-50. There's been some new developments recently. Cammy. Where am I going with this one? I think unchanged already strong. I would assume Cammy is not likely to change a whole lot. They might give her like a couple of small buffs, but I don't think they're gonna affect a whole lot realistically. She's good, but I don't think Capcom wants to raise her power level much. Okay, Lily. Kog and Hibiki make sure Lily never leaves the garbage can. I'm torn between two different things here. I think either unchanged, not that strong currently, or small buffs will get shot. You can't shoot a character that's already dead. Waste of bullets. I think small buffs, but very small. I think she will get a few improvements. The thing is, I think every update, Capcom actually does think they're giving her big buffs. I don't think they really know what Lily needs to be good, because they're very proud of the new stuff they give her every season. They're like, guys, we fixed her combos, so now you can do jab, 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 DP. And then she still kind of stinks. In the balance patch notes, they said, like, this is big. Lily is definitely going to improve, but she didn't really, so I'm gonna go small buffs, but nothing major. Geef is definitely a tricky one because Japan does tend to rate Geef higher than most other regions. They've got some very strong Geefs over there. Yeah, I tend to agree. This is sort of similar to Manon. I'm actually gonna put Geef in small nerfs. I think he might get a few minor nerfs. I think he might get a couple of small nerfs. Not that he deserves it. Okay, Rashid, unchanged, already strong. I feel like Rashid and Cammy and DJ, in fact, all of these characters are in a similar position where they're not like dominating the S tiers. All of my unchanged, already strong characters are quite similar in power level. And I feel like I get the impression Capcom is quite happy where these characters are right now, all 5 of them, and doesn't want to rock the boat particularly. Nerf level 2, I don't think they will. Honestly, and to be honest, right now, maybe this is a hot take, but I think Rashid's level 2 is literally the only thing currently holding him in A tier. If his level 2 does actually get nerfed, I think he would genuinely drop straight to like bottom 10. I don't know if that's Rashid downplay, but I do feel that way. He's kind of being held up by his level 2 a bit right now. No relevant pro even plays Rashid no more. Okay, let's not get carried away with statements like that. That is not true. Aki. Okay, maybe this is copium. Maybe this is copium, but I have a funny feeling Capcom is gonna give her quite big buffs. But I have a feeling it's not gonna be intentional. I have a feeling Capcom is going to try and do this. This is going to be their intent, and they're accidentally going to do this. Because they've done that before. That wouldn't be the first time they've done that. Capcom doesn't seem to have like a great understanding of Aki's strengths, so they do sometimes tend to give her stuff that's a bit excessive sometimes. For example, yeah, a good example of that is that Capcom thought they were nerfing her burnout pressure, and they accidentally buffed it in the same update, so now her burnout pressure is actually better than it used to be because stand medium punch into cower crouch roll is now a true frame trap. I think they will probably aim to give her small buffs, but I have a feeling they might accidentally give her big buffs. But who knows? Maybe that's just copium on my part, we'll see. I've just seen which character is next. We need a new tier, folks. There we go. Absolutely dead, funeral guaranteed, salt the earth, never revive, never escape samsara. Ed is gonna get absolutely fucking murdered in this update. I can feel it in my bones. There is not a single shred of doubt in my mind that Capcom is gonna obliterate this character. Some people say to me like, well, didn't they try and nerf Ed before and they failed? Because that's a predictable response to this, to point out that Ed has been nerfed in like every previous update. I think we've reached like the end of Ed's like surviving each nerf. I think they are gonna come at this character with a goddamn shotgun, because Japan is like, I've never seen the Japanese community more united in hating a character and thinking he's like broken. Like, this character is so despised in Japan. I mean, that's a big part of what caused the negative response to the last balance patch, was the fact that it nerfed Mai, but it didn't nerf Ed. Japan was fucking pissed about that. I don't know if it's possible for him to be like bottom tier or anything, but I do think he is gonna be by far the most nerfed character in this update, and it's not gonna be even close to anyone else. Yeah, he also just dominated the SFL finals, like Reject won the Street Fighter League finals, and a huge part of that was just Lashar and Fudo tag teaming with Ed. We'll see. Akuma. I've got to make sure I don't let my own feelings about Akuma bleed into this one. I've got to make sure I stay in the Capcom mindset. He might get buffed. I have a horrible feeling Akuma might get buffed. Okay, no, I'm not going to get that carried away. I'm going to put Akuma in unchanged, already strong. I think there is a small chance he gets buffed, especially because Daigo has recently been on this, like, Akuma sucks and I'm switching characters next season arc, and Lord Daigo's opinion carries a lot of weight. I do think they might be a bit sympathetic to Daigo, but I don't think Daigo's opinion alone is enough to sway him into getting, like, buffed. But I think Daigo's opinion might be enough to stop him getting nerfed. Okay, Bison. I think Bison is going to get small nerfs. I think there's a general consensus that he's not top 5, but he is one of the most obnoxious characters in the game to fight right now. He is just like one of the most guerrilla characters. Maybe just some damage nerfs, possibly. He has a huge amount of representation in Legend rank. He consistently shows up in like the top 4, top 5 in online results, but I'm expecting him to get like a small damage nerf, and maybe Scissors gets toned down a little bit. Yeah, maybe EX Crusher leaves you point blank on block, so you can actually take advantage of the -3. Terry. I'm putting Terry in unchanged, already strong. This was one of my characters that I selected to invest in for this year, and this is why. Terry flying under the radar. This character is incredibly strong right now, but just barely behind the true demons. I think he might escape without too much damage. Okay, Mai. I think Mai's getting nerfed. I think those nerfs will probably be fairly consequential. I don't think she's getting shot to the same degree as Ed, but I do think she will get nerfed. My only hesitance with this is that it's kind of difficult to nerf her, because I do feel like right now so much focus is going to her EX fans that people aren't noticing that she's actually a really well-rounded character even outside of that. She's got great normals, great corner carry. She's just like a really solid character. But I'm expecting them to mostly focus their effort on the EX fans, probably. I have a very strong suspicion they're going to make Stan Heavy Kick -4 or -5 on block, most likely as well. Seems like an obvious change. I have seen some people say that her level 1 shouldn't be a reversal. That would be a severe nerf if that was the case. I don't think Capcom is going to do that, but I do think she's going to get nerfed. Elena. If you'd asked me a few months ago, I would have put Elena here, but I feel like people are starting to give a little bit more credit to some of her strengths, and they've realized that she's actually a little bit better than the first opinions seemed like. It's all Dogger's fault. I think she's going to get small buffs. So yeah, I think same as Terry. I think he's going to probably stay the same and benefit from it. I'm not expecting him to change much after the last wave of buffs he got in the mini patch. See Viper. I have a feeling Viper is actually going to get quite a lot of buffs. I don't know. I just haven't really seen anyone be that threatening with this character. There's a few people using her. I think Kazunoko is using her. Corgi did qualify for Capcom Cup. Yeah, some Japanese tier lists have Viper in like bottom 3. I don't think she's that bad, but I don't think she's that scary. I feel like everyone who's playing Viper right now is playing her as like an investment for a future season where she becomes good. Like, Crimson is playing Viper, but I get the feeling that if Crimson needed to win a tournament match, he would immediately switch back to Dalsim. Like, everyone's just kind of like very tentative with using her as a secondary. Idom still plays her as a secondary, but I think, again, when the heat is on, I think Idom usually uses Manon. Buff Alex? I guess Alex is here too, but he's being added, so we're not going to include him in this list. So yeah, that's my predictions. Maybe we'll revisit this once the update is out and see how horribly wrong / right I am. I think my last set of predictions was quite good. If I remember rightly, I did call my shot and say that Ryu was going to get buffed, even though Ryu was already good. A lot of people pushed back on that and said, nah, they're not going to buff Ryu again. I had quite a good prediction result last time, so we'll see if I can maintain my future sight powers this time. Anyway, let me know what you guys think down in the comments, and I will see you guys all in the next video.